Salam, and thank you for joining me today on my channel. If you are new here, please take a moment to subscribe. If you are already subscribed, thank you for coming back. Welcome. In today's video, we have a special guest. Ta-da! My husband. And the reason why he's here joining us today for this video is the topic, which is why we homeschool. And it's literally we, because were it not for my husband, my children would not have Holy Quran class or math class at home. So we have our Qari Sahib teacher, and he teaches them to read Holy Quran and also teaches them mathematics. Without further ado, let's get started.
Let's open. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. حمده نصلي على رسوله الكريم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. As
we were saying, the reasons why we homeschool. I was going to look into a question answer like online, but instead we might just free flow with it and just give you from the beginning, because we grew up in a community, so it's kind of like it's a common habit or a common occurrence in our community where families homeschool.
So when we were born and raised in this community, and as with most communities, many of the accepted practices and norms are developed inside of the community. And in our community, early on, many families put their children in public school. After a while, the elders of the community strongly encouraged that everyone pull their kids out of public school and begin homeschooling. And that's the genesis of how we began this journey. It began before this generation of children who are in public school or who are being homeschooled right now. But right now it's my generation of children, our generation of children that we're homeschooling.
Yeah, I remember when our eldest, he's 11 now, but when he turned 4, I was leaning more towards, I thought about it a lot, putting him in a public school system, and my husband kind of reminded me like, no, that's not what we're about, that's not what we're going to do. So from my understanding, I was homeschooled, but I felt like I did not know how to teach him. So where I was coming from is, he needs someone who's professional and knows what they're doing. It was more so because I didn't have the confidence to teach him, and I felt like he needed someone who went to school for it in order to teach him, not realizing that the mother's lap is the child's first university. And because my husband was public schooled, or he went to public school, he knew more about the system, he was more familiar with it than I was. And he strongly encouraged me, and he even signed our children up for
K-12.
It was K-12. Yeah, it was K-12. And because I'm thinking connections.
K-12 Virtual Academy.
Okay, it was K-12, and he signed them up for K-12 initially. And when all the books and things were delivered, then I started feeling it a little more. I visited a few schools to see which one was right for our son, but once all of the books and everything started getting delivered, I fell in love with the idea of homeschooling a lot more, and I could appreciate it a lot more when I saw it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. And that was starting with kindergarten. But if you want, you can tell a little bit more about your experience in public school, or just the idea of why you didn't want our children homeschooled. I mean, why you didn't want our children in that institution.
So I was, when I was raised in a very wholesome environment. Like my wife said, the mother's lap is the child's first school, and my mother was very, very, very strongly entrenched in wholesome values and modesty and things like that. So my mother was public school. She went to public school all of her life, and she even went through her college education and all of those things. And she began homeschooling kindergarten. I remember, and she taught us not just the religious aspects of life, but also the social aspects of life. We did reading, writing, and arithmetic. We did all of those things. When I was 10 years old, it became too much for her to bear. So, we had a large family, and we ended up all going to public school. I come from a family of 12 brothers and sisters, so I'm right above the middle. Everyone below me was homeschooled, but for me, I ended up in public school from me on up. And while I got a great quality of education, it destroyed my, I shouldn't say destroyed, but it really dirtied my moral compass. I'll put it that way. So I learned a lot. I learned, so much from public school in terms of knowledge, book knowledge. We went on field trips. We traveled around. I was a part of numerous extracurricular clubs. I played football and basketball and baseball, and that's the good side of it. The other side of it is, what I would say that are the dangers of just thrusting your children into that environment. I learned, all of the nasty little nuances of, sitting in the back of the class or the front of the class. It was just a very, very, I won't say scary, but it was a very eye-opening experience for me. And I went to public school for 12 years. That includes college. I started in 4th grade and on up through college. And when I say it dirtied my moral compass, it undid a lot of the values and morals and wholesome way that my mother taught me in my earlier years. So there was a point in time where I was totally lost, and I had to really, really dig in and get back to my roots and find my way. The problem with that is everyone isn't so lucky. So for me, the biggest and most important value of educating our children at home, the most important reason is we can control their introduction into the outside social fabric, outside of our home. We can teach them certain things. We can teach them our way and our moral code of conduct, ethics, all of those things, while limiting their exposure to certain bad elements of society.
I agree 100%. I was thinking that one of the most important things that I love that I can do with my children is that we can teach them Islamic culture, not just American culture because we are American, but we can teach them culture that is it worldwide, because as Muslims we all connect in one central place, and that is the nucleus or the center of Islam, which is focused on the worship of one God, praying 5 times a day, and we come together during the month of Ramadan, which is quickly approaching. We come together during the month of Ramadan and we celebrate Eid. Like, we all have the same common core belief. We have the same core belief no matter where you are in the world. If you are a Muslim, you have it's a certain culture that you have, and we're able to give it to our children, and we give them that exposure to the world without all the corruption. So basically we can filter it, and they can learn at the same time about everything else. They know different Christians, and they know people of different races and different backgrounds, but they don't have to learn it in an environment where someone is being teased or being called out of their name or being called a racial slur. They can learn about someone else's culture, background, history, in the most, I want to say, pure way,
natural.
Or basically it's a censored way,
most natural way.
Yeah, in the most natural way, and learn to accept people for who they are and how they are without having to learn about it in a negative way. We can shed light on different topics when they ask questions. You know, sometimes you might not realize your child is ready to talk about a certain subject until they ask you a question, and we can give them the answer. It's not, to me, it's not the responsibility of some public school teacher or some other person to teach your child about what's the topic? There's a proper term for the topic about sexuality, but that's not what it's called.
Health.
Your health class, but there's a topic. I just saw the video on it.
Hygiene.
I think it's puberty or something like that. I just saw it on my sister sent me a video link. It's on YouTube where they're teaching the children, and they're in 5th grade, and I have a 5th grader, and they're teaching the boys and girls in the same classroom about the different stages that you go through in puberty, and I would be very uncomfortable, and I know my son would be very uncomfortable learning about, you know, girls at that, going through that stage, and I don't think he'd want to be around other boys while learning about, you know, personal parts of the body and things like that. So it's not up to some, I don't want to say stranger, but it's not up to someone else to teach him that. It's up to his parents. It's our responsibility to teach our children those subjects, definitely. And I still believe that they can get that education about the world through the purest form. We still have field trips. We still have sports for them. Our children are very open to multicultural and diversity and things like that, and they learned it all through homeschool and through, you know, the exposure that we give them. We travel with them, we take them to different places, and we allow them to meet other children from different backgrounds, as well as giving them their Common Core education so that they can go on to high school and college. And I feel like I'm going on and on. But this is why we homeschool.
Another thing is the curriculum in public school. It's one-sided. It's not objective, and it's controlled in a way that, you know, it kind of goes along political lines more than anything, right? As an example, you know, the T word, transgender. I don't believe a child can be transgender, and the idea that my son or my daughter would go into a bathroom and there's a member of the opposite sex in there, I don't care what they term the child, you know, that's troubling to me, that I don't have any control over that. I don't necessarily have an issue with what they do in public. You know, if that's the way our government works and it trickles down into the public school system, that's fine. I just want to be able to have more control over that experience for them. You know, some of the subjects, the way they teach African American history or the lack thereof in public schools, the way that history is taught is very, very pointed toward, you know, supremacy for one race. And I don't feel that that's appropriate. I don't feel it's just. I feel children need the broader picture. They need to see things in an objective point of view so that they can make their own informed decision once they reach that point in their lives. That, you know, that's one of the other, you know, important reasons why I feel homeschooling is better than public school.
I strongly agree. So are we going to wrap this up, or is there more you'd like to say? Because I think we made our point.
I think we made our point. Absolutely.
Hopefully this wasn't offensive to any of you. That was not our intention. We're just telling why we homeschool, or why we feel or deem it more appropriate to homeschool. Like I said, I was homeschooled myself, and I did enjoy being homeschooled. My mother is like my hero, so, and she's one of my biggest supporters. No offense intended. No, my mother is really, she's my hero. So if you're watching, assalamu alaikum. And yeah, she is the backbone. So let's see. I think we covered everything. Just, I mean, we're really freestyling. Freestyling. Ooh, yeah. So we're spitting bars. Really? Okay, so I think we're gonna wrap it up. Would you like to close out, or how are we gonna do this?
وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Thank you for watching.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.